Hello, hello. Oh, we're going to have a really juicy episode for you today. I have my guest today, Melissa Litchfield. She's an owner of an ads agency, and we're going to talk about ad strategy, what's working, what's not. And especially this is for you if you're a course creator, if you sell any type of online service or program, this is going to be super, super valuable. So I'm so excited to have Melissa on the podcast. Melissa, I'd love you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you and your business.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Elena. I am the CEO and owner of Litchfield Media. It's a digital advertising agency and funnel building agency for online course creators, online entrepreneurs, and service-based providers. I started this business in 2019, so we're going into our fifth year of business, which is crazy to think. But yeah, I'm excited for 2024 and what's in store and launching for my clients and for myself. It's kind of crazy, but it's fun.
It's so much fun. Well, I know a lot of our listeners, they're going to be super interested in ads. I know a lot of my audience, they may be, they certainly have a lot, maybe they have an online product. They're probably already successful with their online business, but they're actually kind of interested to understand more how would ad strategy work for them. Also, and obviously I'd love you kind of to talk more about this, but perhaps we can start is, what are the key mistakes that you see people make when it comes to ads or thinking about ads? What are the kind of, where do the people go to, and what's actually kind of really big mistakes that you see?
Yeah, okay. So I'll use a couple examples just from my own ad members right now in my membership. So they're asking a lot of good questions, and I feel like it is the most common mistakes, right, that people make. So one is not testing enough creative, right? So people tend to kind of stick with one audience in one ad set and then one image, one version of copy, one headline. So actually creating more assets to test in your ad campaign can definitely benefit because you're kind of like banking on that one audience and that one ad to convert for it to kind of carry your entire ad campaign. So, so very little ad creative being tested. A budget is another mistake, like not having enough budget to test all the versions of creative that people do ultimately want to test. So for instance, just as an example, one of our members was trying to test, $50 a day for two ad sets, right? So she's testing two different ad sets, but to a low ticket item. And that particular low ticket item was around $27. And she had about, I think it was six versions of ad creative under each ad set. So ultimately 12 ads, right? For just $50 a day. So I kind of had to break it down for her. And I was like, for a low ticket item, right? We want to at least see a conversion happen for the cost to acquire that purchase, right? So ideally, you're at least breaking even on that front, first conversion from the ad. But if you only have $50 a day, that means it's going to probably take like a month to fully test everything and see if it's converting. So for a low ticket offer, it's just, a good example that, your budget really does matter and that could really make or break your campaign. Or you could kind of like be pulling your hair out and driving your own self nuts because you can't understand why, not enough conversions are coming in or
Mhm.
not seeing any conversions. So it really does sometimes come back to the budget, right? And that could be a major mistake that people are making.
So let's
Okay.
sort of give some numbers here. So if some
Yeah.
this is a great example. So if someone thinking I have a $27 product and I want to sell it to cold traffic, I want to have a funnel. Ideally, I want to have a funnel that just pays for itself, right? So I guess you want the ads, the ink gonna all break even, right? The amount of money you make on the sales of the low ticket offer, you cover the cost. And that's kind of ideal case to be because you frankly getting free leads and you can run it till kind of perpetuity in theory. So what is
Right.
kind of budget? So when it comes to testing, what people need to set aside for testing purposes to even find the winning creative, the winning copy that then can finally convert?
Yeah. I would say having just enough ample budget for that particular daily spend to be able to have enough that like spreads across all the different versions of ad creatives you're testing. So that may also come down to maybe you need to whittle down your creatives, right? Maybe you need to stick with three instead of six. So in terms of like that example, my suggestion was, okay, let's either up the daily budget so you have enough to test all the creative and then you can scale it back down once you see some conversions coming through and you can kind of determine a winner. or you're going to have to probably narrow down some audience or some ads, right? Turn some off. So that way you're only maybe testing 3 versus 6. That's a lot for, well, that was just in one ad set they were talking about. So like 12 across an entire campaign and you're only spending $50 for an actual low ticket item. That's not a whole lot. So
No.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
And it's gonna
really, I think so what would you say? Kind of at least $20 per creative or $50 per one creative.
Yeah, and that's for a low ticket offer, right? It totally differs if we're talking about a lead magnet or a webinar. You kind of already have to kind of at least know like the industry standards, like, okay, what does on average a lead cost to acquire, right? For this specific industry or niche. So I think it really helps to at least ask an ad specialist or ask around, right? What are you guys seeing for the cost to acquire a lead right now for a quiz? Or what are you seeing for the cost to acquire, right now for a webinar lead in the fitness industry, right? So like knowing at least some background on what to expect, that will lead you to better predict, okay, how much do I need to allot for a daily spend in order to see this many leads, right? So if on average a webinar lead is, $5, but you want to be able to test, against, let's say 12 versions of ad creative again, literally speaking, right? You probably need at least $5 per ad, right? So that's essentially a higher budget than
Higher
probably what.
budget. Yeah. And would you say that on average you would see a webinar lead being more expensive? So $5 to $10 per webinar lead. And then for a kind of quiz or PDF or a freebie, anywhere from $2 to $10 kind of thing. Would you say you would expect a lower lead cost for something like a quiz or a PDF versus webinar?
Oh
Uh,
yeah, 100%. Yeah. So, and I mean, again, it does depend on the niche and the industry. Like B2B versus B2C is vastly different in terms of cost.
awesome.
Yeah. So, for example, if you're in the business coaching space, an average cost per lead for a webinar could be anywhere between, 7 and $10+. It kind of depends, right? It kind of depends too, like what is the level of, potential clients that you're attracting into this webinar? Are they more beginner or are they more advanced? Because I feel like if you're attracting the beginner, you're probably gonna have a wider pool of people and the cost is probably going to be lower in terms of, oh, I only want to work with multiple 6-figure businesses, right? So the cost to acquire that lead is probably a lot, it's going to be a lot more than say like a beginner. So those are things to kind of determine as well and like factor into like your campaign planning.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why it's just clarity of a messaging is just so important. So you can target the right people, you can put the right creative that speaks to the right people and everything afterwards. And I think we'll talk a lot about consistency and coherency, that everything creative, copy, messaging on the webinars, the offer, everything has to be consistent and coherent. Otherwise, you're going to be losing people on the way. If your creative thing says one thing, copy takes them somewhere else, sales page on the kind of registration page, another way, it's just you're gonna lose people, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Well, you're probably gonna not see any conversions, and then that's where you're gonna have to do some digging. And yeah, like where's the messaging not aligning here? Like, why aren't people converting? So yeah, obviously that's a whole another conversation that we can chat about.
Amazing. No, that's beautiful. So that's a really great one. So really not having enough budget is the key one. Not doing enough testing is another one. Where else have you seen? So do you see other clients? I guess obviously you run an ads agency. I'd love to kind of talk to you about what's the benefits of using an ads agency versus trial and error where people do it themselves.
Yeah. I guess just having like a sounding board, like an extension of your team, right, to bounce ideas off of, or, maybe they can help assist you in the right creative direction in terms of like what to say on a video, right? Or just having an actual expert, right, in the back, like in your back pocket to say, okay, I know that I'm hiring this ad agency and they're going to do everything that needs to happen tech wise, back end wise. And if you have the right team, they're probably really familiar with a live launch and what entails, in terms of like email sequences and tags and do you need to duplicate your funnel to differentiate the traffic sources, right? So just things like that, I think, I mean, it really does serve a different type of business, right? And what stage of business you're in, because not everybody can, obviously we know this. Like I'm totally aware that like an ad agency is an investment, right? So by all means, if you're not ready for an ad agency and you get on a call with me or a team member, I will reassure you that, okay, this may not be the right step for you, but here are some other options to, how you can actually get started with ads. So
Yeah, and I think most people will understand that. Actually, most people I know and I work with, they don't really want to become an ad specialist themselves. And reality is, you if you run an ads and if you
right.
dive into, you kind of required to really become a little bit of a specialist. You're going to need to understand that. You really need to understand it, especially
Right.
if you start running your own ads and you start spending a lot of money. I would suggest you really want to understand it. And if you don't want to spend a lot of time really understanding it deeply, you're probably better off working with an expert that do or spend 1,000 hours doing it all day long. And also they're probably going to have more time looking at your campaigns, analyzing, seeing sure you see other clients, so you know the metrics, you know what to expect, you know what some things are not working. So you could be able to highlight those red flags or things that should be fixed early on, which actually could be a great cost saving for people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I guess it also comes down to like, what type of stage are you in your business? If you're more towards the beginner stage, I'd probably recommend maybe learning how to do your own like lead generation ads. Keep it simple, right? Don't get into anything super complicated. But if you wanted to say, generate 1,000 more leads for your webinar next month, but you're not really sure how to go about that, book a call with a specialist, right? I think a lot of us ad specialists probably have that option, and it's just a matter of asking, right? So I think, ad specialists are more than willing to either have a consultation call with you or do some type of ad intensive to where they can at least set it up, or maybe just do like a double check verification that everything's set up, for you. So you have that peace of mind, right, before you hit publish, because honestly, I feel like people have the most questions in terms of ads and what to do once it starts spending money, right? It's like this oh crap moment. Like I just hit publish and now things are happening. What do I do?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's talk. So I think it's quite clear. I think if you are serious about running your campaigns, I think this is where the advantage of working with someone like you is so powerful. And what I love about your business, there's going to be a lot of ads agencies that very kind of hands off. They're like, well, you tell me what you want, and they don't really give advice. And I think what's different about you, you really give people really guidance. So at least what's not working or who they can go to, which is really powerful. So it's kind of this co-creation in the business. So it's not just you kind of also provide that advice, kind of like a digital marketing agency, which is so powerful. But let's talk about people that maybe they're not at that stage. Let's make sure they walk away from today with some tangible and something they can. I know you've got a beautiful membership that might be a really great fit that we'll certainly talk about. But let's give them a little pointers. So if someone's starting out, what's a great place for them to start? If they want to just maybe they want to pay, let's say, I don't know, whatever the budget they have, maybe a small budget. What can people start with? You said lead generation campaigns. Let's tell people a little bit more about what that could look like.
Yeah, lead generation ad campaigns. And if you're in like the B2B space, like myself, I'm running like a low budget campaign right now for my own lead generation ads, and I'm spending about $50 to $60 a day. I have 2 ad sets running, and I think I have around 4 or 5 versions of ads in each one. So probably around 10 to 12 ads. So I feel like $50 to $60 a day is perfect for starting out and you are serious about growing your list. I would say if you are interested in doing this, you're probably at that 1 to 2 year stage in your business, right? I wouldn't necessarily recommend lead generation for a brand new business because you probably aren't even sure of like who you want to work with yet, right? You probably need to gather some more client testimonials, some just like, proven stuff under your belt before you start generating leads for your business. And it comes down to like a lead magnet too. Do you have a lead magnet that will attract the right ideal client into your, marketing atmosphere? or do you need to wait on that? And I think there's no harm in waiting, right? Because I
Yeah.
feel like you definitely grow in terms of like being in business for a year or two. Like there's huge growth in that in comparison to when you just first started your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I certainly see a lot of people. Yes, rush into this, create a lead magnet because they hear that lead magnet is the thing. They must create something, but they kind of think, well, they kind of go from a place, what can I talk about? What value I can give? What PDF I can write? Oh, I can talk about branding. Oh, I can give them 5 steps to this. So they go from that rather than thinking, right, what kind of client specifically I want to attract, and what do I need to say in that PDF to attract them? So it's
Yeah, I think that's probably maybe where most new business owners get hung up, right? They hear that you need to create all this content, all these things. But in reality, if you're a new business owner, I'm probably going to tell you find a client, start working with people, right?
big
Start
time.
building some real life skills and experience of working with clients and facilitating some sort of transformation, right? Like there needs to be some sort of like, how you got them from point A to point D, right? So that way you can showcase that and attract more clients and really get good at that. And I feel like from there, it's going to naturally form into some sort of, oh, I know exactly what to create for my lead magnet because my clients always ask me this, and this, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, like that's where at least and two, I get a lot of inspiration to create different products or workshops around consistent, questions that are around that same topic. And it's like, okay, well, I see that there's a need for this and people are clearly interested in it and they keep asking me and it's a frequently asked question. That's usually how I come about with like creating a new product or a new digital workshop. So yeah,
that's
experience
beautiful.
really does help influence, what sort of offerings or freebies that you do want to start.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And so you can't shortcut it. You have to be an expert. You have to get expertise. If you haven't got clients, it's going to be very difficult for you to develop any type of marketing campaign because you just don't know where it's just going to be so vague. So the best thing, I think that's a great advice. Make sure you get some client results, client testimonials, and then things will become a lot clearer. Let's talk about audiences. Audience is an interesting thing. What's your view on audiences? Do people need to get specific? Because some people say don't get specific on your audience interests, niches. Let the algorithm work its magic, especially in Meta, and let it run for a while. Let the kind of pixel season, and it will find you the right people. Where are you on that?
Gosh, when you're saying that, to me, I'm just thinking very general advice, like very general meta guru advice, so to say. And it almost makes me feel like it's so similar to what the meta support team will say to you. Like if you do get on a call with a meta marketing pro or a support person, the best advice they give you is just to spend more money. And it's honestly the worst advice, right?
It's so true.
Why am I going to spend more money if things are not converting? That's what just baffles me. And you can clearly see that, okay, this ad has spent X amount of money. Why would I leave it on if it's clearly not working? So yeah, I feel like, sorry, I'm losing track of what we were chatting about, but that type of advice though is very generic. And I almost feel like knowing what I know and managing the amount of accounts that I know, because some gurus, they're just speaking from their own experience, right? They don't really know, they haven't really managed other client accounts, they don't run an agency. But from my personal experience of what I've seen working, especially after iOS 14 changes that like happened in 2021, everyone says go broad, like don't put as
Yeah.
many. And I'm like, that is, I mean, it does work for some clients, right? And it does bring in leads. But that's not to say that I'm also not testing, custom audiences like, warm audiences and lookalikes because they do work. And it's
Well,
crazy to me to hear that like other gurus are saying that lookalike audiences are no longer working. But
hmm.
yet I have proof from my own client ad accounts that they do work. Maybe not all of them will work or like in the past how they used to work, but they still do work, and it's
Yeah.
like you just have to test. It's like you don't
You do
know.
have to test, isn't it? You have to test. But I think from what you see and actually using a warm traffic, warm audience, and then doing a lookalike audience for that is a good strategy for some people. Um,
Oh, yeah, especially if you are using the Meta products organically to your advantage, that only benefits you when it comes time to running ads to those custom audiences, right? Because you put in the effort, you made that specific, work to get that lead to follow you, right? And to engage with you and interact with you and message you on the phone, right? Or on the app. All of those audiences can be created via custom audiences in Ads Manager, and you can create lookalike audiences from those existing ones. So, I mean, they're super powerful. And I'll be honest with you right now, the best performing lookalike audience for like across the board for all my clients are always a lookalike of their purchasers, right? So
the
essentially,
purchasers, yes.
so exporting a list of everyone that has ever purchased or bought from you, say in the past year, right? You don't want to do all time because that's probably not most accurate of the type of client or customer you have at the moment. But export that list as long as you have 100 emails or
Hundred is
people
enough. Hundred is enough.
for a lookalike. Yeah. And you can create a lookalike. Yeah. It may not work in multiple countries because you can pick different countries, but all you have to do is do that separately. When you're creating the lookalike audience, you can just make one for US, one for Canada, one for, kind of depends where you're acquiring clients, but yeah, all you need is 100 emails and can make any audience a lookalike audience.
Okay, so I guess if people are listening, they don't have 100 clients. So another alternative would be 100 emails of people like email subscribers would be another thing they can do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. If you have 100 people on your master list, that's enough to make a lookalike out of. Yeah. And don't forget, you don't need 100 emails of people that purchase from you. You can also utilize people that interacted with you on Instagram, right? DM'd you on Instagram. The traffic that you're sending to your website, it's the same type of audience, right? So you can still tap into those and make a lookalike. Yeah.
Great advice, great advice. So here's some really tangible pointers for people. So would you recommend what about interests? Things like if they follow Amy Porterfield and kind of their
Yeah. I would still, I mean, it really comes down to budget, right? Because some people don't have a huge amount of money to spend every day. So I always say, okay, start with some lookalike audiences, test your warm audience, see how they react and they convert to this new freebie you're launching. That will give you a lot of insight, right? If your warm audience is not converting, you may need to go back to the nurturing phase, right? Of your Instagram account or Facebook. But yeah, you can totally tap into those and the detailed targeting too. I think it just depends on like how many audiences you want to test, what does
Hmm.
your daily budget allow? But I would definitely test both. And I do so for all my clients. I'm always testing everything.
Everything. I know that's the power of people don't realize and appreciate the power of testing. Testing is just everything. And what else do you split test? So clearly you split test, creatives, copy. Is there any further things, audiences? Is there anything else you test?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I've tested different countries, right? Separating out the country,
Yeah.
testing female versus all genders, because most of my clients, they tend to work with only females. So I like to test like, okay, how does just targeting only women convert versus targeting all genders? I've tested so much though. Yeah, I've tested like, only ad sets with only images and then ad sets with only cold audiences, ad sets with only warm. And I've done the same with campaigns. And honestly, I haven't seen a huge difference when separating it out by campaign. So I know some people do. But yeah, I tend to, if I am split testing, normally it's by ad set. And then, you can separate them out from there and clearly label them. So that way you can kind of see on the ad set level, okay, are the female audiences converting better than all genders or, this country versus this one? So yeah, for those like high level demographic splits, I would definitely do it on like the ad set
Yeah.
level.
And when you do testing, do you do A/B testing? Or do you just, let's say, have 6 creatives and then you look at the results, look at, I don't know, CTR and any other metrics?
I
Um,
I'm a little anal and I don't like Meta doing the split testing for me, so I like to do it manually. Yeah. I don't use their A/B testing option.
okay.
I feel like there's not enough control
Not
and
enough control. Yeah.
declare a winner when I'm not fully like, confident in the decision to declare a winner yet. So I like to split test my own. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like one, like if it's one or two, but actually one test six, and you find the winner out of the six, um, that's kind of another thing. How do you do? Yeah, I think it's so. Do you look at CTR? So this for people who don't know, maybe we can just talk about CTR and any other metrics that they should watch out and what's kind of good or bad health check wise.
Yeah. Yeah, I do CTR. I definitely do a check if we're not seeing any conversions within 24 hours. That's like a red flag for me. If I'm not seeing any conversions within 24 hours, I know that there's something majorly wrong. Major. Because I'll normally see, within that first day of starting the ads, I'll see something come through. I'll see a conversion. I'll be like, okay, it may not be the cost that I want, but I know it's super early in the testing phase that, obviously I know it's converting, so I'm willing to wait. But if I see by the next morning, oh my God, I started this ad campaign and nothing. We've spent, say, $300 and nothing. That is like a red flag to me for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, that's interesting. But what is the CTR of everything, anything above one, anything above 1.5? So like a click-through rate, right? So we're looking at CTR click-through rate.
Yeah. Ideally, it's two. Well, for
Two.
the overall CTR, right? If you want the link click-through rate, it's usually like a 2-to-1 ratio, right? Or like half of whatever the CTR overall is. It does vary, right? Depending on like what type of campaign you're running.
But
Because
link through rate is the important one, right? That's the most
I
important.
would say they're both important because one, you do want to stop the scroll, right? And like the overall CTR, I feel like is a good metric to look at to see like, okay, how is my creative resonating with the audiences that I'm targeting, right? Are they actually stopping to read the copy? And then the link CTR is a good metric to look at because, okay, you got them to stop, but did you get them to click through?
Mm.
Yeah. Because if those metrics are looking pretty solid and you're still not seeing conversions, then it's probably a tracking issue. Or like, sometimes the forms don't redirect appropriately. I personally check all that myself before starting ads. Like I'll opt into the funnel and make sure it's redirecting. But let's say on your end, you're running your own ads and you're like, well, shoot, why isn't this tracking? Opt into your lead magnet, make sure it's redirecting because sometimes you may forget to change a specific option to show a message versus redirect. So like little things like that that you may not catch yourself if you're creating your own funnel. Totally understand. I made the same mistakes before. I was running my own ads. And for ConvertKit, if you're a part of the creator network, it will show like recommendations on that form before it redirects them. So it was just screwing up my tracking and I couldn't see any conversions coming through. I can see them on the form, right? I could see the leads coming through on the form. So I knew the ads were working, but it wasn't tracking the conversions. And then I re-opted into my ad and I was like, oh, that's why the creator network is like showing before the thank you page. So that's why no one was like getting tracked as a lead because they either would probably X out before it gets to that next page,
Mm.
or they would probably just X out too quickly before it could even load, right? They probably X'd out of the pop-up and they just left. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's powerful. So CTR of anything above two, kind of two, anything above one is good, would you say?
An overall CTR, I would say of 1.5 to 2%, right? And then
1.52%. And then link.
half of that, half of that percentage should be your link. Because you want like a 2-to-1 ratio, right? Or like a 50% of what the CTR overall was. You want that to be your link CTR. So you want that to be at least half. So that means like out of all those people that are stopping to view the ad, 50% click through. That's all that means.
Yeah, fantastic. So some really powerful metrics for people to be thinking about. Amazing. And what about the type of campaign? So you've just kind of talked about, so it's more of a lead form campaign in Meta, right? So where they become a lead and then they have to fill in the form in Meta to become a lead, and kind of Meta will register them as a lead. Is
You can do it, yeah, you can do it that way. It's an option. You will need to utilize a premium Zap from Zapier to like connect, the Facebook lead form to your email marketing software. But I like to just use a form on my website. So like I'll embed a ConvertKit form on a show it landing page and then, just make sure that the form redirects to the thank you page.
So you will actually, yeah, so it will still be a lead campaign, but instead of taking them to a form, we'll take them to a website, and then it'll be your website,
Right.
and then they fill in the form there. Okay, great. And you see them work equally as good, right?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, for the Facebook lead forms, you can have like you can click an option to like maximum conversions as possible. And then you can say like I want a higher intent type of lead. So I feel like that is a downfall sometimes is like you'll get super cheap leads from the forms, but like do they convert? So we're trying
Yeah.
to make sure that they are converting. If you're going to use a Facebook lead form, just make sure like the money you're pouring into the ad are the actual right leads that you want.
Yeah, we've seen lower quality type of leads. I don't know why it is. And generally, I don't know whether you've seen the same. We are seeing a lot lower quality leads coming from Facebook rather than Instagram. So kind of people, Facebook users, I think we find them they're cheaper than people coming from Instagram. Although let's say ads will be running on both platforms, they're going to be running everywhere. But what we're seeing is the Facebook leads are cheaper, lower quality generally. And
Yeah.
I think because of the forms, because they're pre-filled, there's the intent is low. So they're kind of, oh yeah. And then they forget what they even signed up for.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
it's mainly due to the fact of that Facebook will auto-populate. If you're using a Facebook form, Facebook already has that information already associated with your account. So it does give you the option to just one click of a button, it enters in your information for you, and then you can just hit submit. So you want like a higher quality lead that has a higher intent of actually consuming the content that, you're offering for free. So I feel personally, I would rather them go to my website in general because that's where my pixel is.
yes,
If
that's
what?
a big point.
Yeah. And I know it's probably the pixel is, connected and integrated with the Facebook form. Why wouldn't it be, right? But still, I want them to go to my website. I want them to read the copy. There's a lot more copy that you can put on a landing page versus a form. I want them to know a little bit more about me in the form. I have the opportunity to, put like an as seen in banner on my page. There's a lot more like design flexibility that you can have on an actual landing page that you own versus a Facebook lead form. And I feel like you can show more credibility there. You can have screenshots. So like, I feel like, yeah, for like authority building, I feel like the landing page has a lot more flexibility in terms of like what information you can have on there.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you see most of your clients, they come to you, they want to run a launch and they want to have more leads, or they also what's kind of the split? Or they want to run evergreen products? What kind of split of people that they come with?
Yeah, I would say half and half are coming directly just for like a live launch package, right? So some of my clients only run ads for a live launch, and then half of those clients, do both, right? So they're doing evergreen funnels that are consistently running, and then from time to time throughout the year, they'll live launch a couple of times. So
Yeah. And for the live launch, what do you recommend? So obviously people opting in into the live event. And then do you run other campaigns after kind of open cart emails, closed cart kind of campaigns?
yeah, we do typically for a live launch, we'll do top of funnel lead gen, which is like for the lead magnet, and then some engagement type of ads, whether that be like driving traffic to their podcast or generating more video views for like audiences that we can retarget. And then middle of funnel is typically like a webinar, a master class. We want to retarget everyone that did opt into the freebie, and that also interacted with any sort of like website or video or social. But we're also driving cold traffic to that webinar as well, right? So we're doing warm and cold. And then bottom of funnel is our retargeting ads, which are like the open cart, closed cart type of ads that are only running during your live launch promo.
And they're retargeting only people that are registered to the webinar.
For live launches, we retarget everybody for live launches. Yeah.
So by retargeting, when you say retargeting, is that means that people may be on your email list? So
Yeah, so
if
it
you
basically means all warm audiences. There is no cold audience generation because we're basically sending everybody to the sales page to buy at that point. So that means they usually either interacted with the client's social profiles, email list, or they directly signed up for the webinar, masterclass challenge, etc.
okay, perfect. So you can create a separate audience for warm traffic, retargeting audience, and then you target them.
Yeah, so all those like custom audiences that we were talking about before on the podcast, you use those same exact audiences, and then you can make custom audiences out of any URL that has your pixel, right? It has to be a domain. I shouldn't say any URL. It has to be a domain that you own, right? We can't basically create a custom audience out of Amy Porterfield's website, but we can make an audience out of anyone that visited our sales page or our checkout page. Yeah.
Yes, fantastic. And the retargeting is powerful, isn't it? That's where a lot of power comes in because people already interacted you, they know you now, they've seen you again, they've seen what you've got going on. Uh,
Yeah, usually for a live launch, the retargeting ads bring in anywhere from like 50 to 70% of the sales. So
wow.
yeah, sometimes it's flipped. I feel like it depends on how strong of an email list you have. Because sometimes majority of the sales come from emails, but on average, I would say like 50 to 70% of the purchases do come from ads, right? Because it's a direct way to target everybody that
Yeah,
interact.
it is a very direct. And even if, and I think the power of that, even if they get in, the power is like omnipresence, isn't it? The power is they've got an email from you today, they saw your post on Instagram, and they're seeing your ad. So from their perspective, it's like, you, my God, you're everywhere. Um,
Yes.
like you can't be escaped. And that's kind of what we want, isn't it? We want that that it's kind of that presence is like, oh my word, she's everywhere, he's everywhere. That's crazy.
Yes.
Amazing. Well, tell us more about the membership, the ads membership.
Yeah, so it basically is an opportunity to work with me on a monthly basis. You'll get extra support via our Slack channel. So all of our members have access to our Slack channel. So Monday through Friday, I'm answering questions right during the week. And then once a month, we do have a monthly Q&A call for all of our members. So that is like an extra opportunity to, screen share or ask me direct questions, or maybe you want me to look at like an ad or a landing page. But yeah, I feel like the questions in our Slack channel are not just ad questions, but they're sometimes like strategy questions, right? Like, hey, should I run this lead magnet, or should I go for a webinar? So sometimes like our members do have like outside of the box questions than ads. And I do want to be able to support them, and not just the ad side, but like the overall strategy, right? Because there's a lot of like funnel pieces that tie into ads, and making sure you know exactly what you need in order to make the ad successful sometimes does require that extra funnel knowledge. So yeah, but there is like core foundational training videos that's housed in like a course portal. And then the Slack channel, you can join from there once you join, and then you can hop on our monthly Q&A calls. Those are recorded, they're popped in the portal. And then we're actually working on an FAQ, like content bank, because I find like the same questions kind of keep popping up. So I'm like, okay, how can we basically funnel all these questions to like one concise area
Mm.
that we like categorize, so that way people aren't having to watch a freaking 5-minute video, on like the learning phase. Because I'm like, how can I minimize the actual amount of training, right? Because I want people to get the meat and potatoes. Once you get the meat and potatoes of the concepts of how to run your own ads, then yes, all these nuanced like little things pop up along the way, but I don't want that to necessarily mean you have to watch another video to learn what that means. So I feel like a good content bank will be helpful. So anyways, that's what we're working on. But yeah, the beta rate right now until we launch is $90 a month. And then there'll be some like, annual membership bonuses during our live launch. But yeah, I think it's like an affordable way to
Great.
continue to work with me, get support. And then especially if you are someone that is like me, service provider, maybe you want to learn these skills and be able to implement that for your clients. I feel like it's a really needed skill that a lot of people don't have.
Really.
Yeah.
It's extremely powerful. It's very needed, and I think it's so affordable, right? So, guys, if you listen to this, jump in. That sounds just really great, isn't it? And also, if you're running your own campaigns, if you want to, if you're a service provider, you want to offer that service, it's a really great option. And also, I guess it's a good starting point. And then once they're ready, they maybe can graduate into your more, higher level clients in the agency. But it's a great kind of way for them to start. I love that. And presumably in the Q&A, they can also share how they've set up their campaigns or what's happening and ask some questions specifically on their personal campaigns.
Yeah, yeah. So right now, yeah, there's a couple wins coming through in the Slack channel that I saw today, but a lot of people do screenshot or I'm asking for the screenshot because I'm like, well, I can see better, right? Versus like people can explain it to me what's happening, but I'm like, well, there's a lot more questions that I need to know. Send me a screenshot, send me a Loom. I'll be able to see the problem versus just read it like a lot quicker. Yeah.
And maybe how do you manage the Slack channel communication? What's your, because I know a lot of my clients, when they have like Slack channels, sometimes they find it really overwhelming, questions constantly. Do you have a process how you would manage it? Do you like go to it once a day, once a week? Do you have a certain way to manage that?
Yeah, I kind of treat it like my client Slack channels right now. So I'll check everything in the morning and then at 3 p.m. before I like actually have to log off at 4:30. So give it like one check in the morning and then another check in the afternoon. Um, I do have plans to bring in another ad coach for support because, once we live launch, I do expect more members to come in. So obviously, yeah, we want to make sure that everyone feels supported, in terms of like getting feedback on their campaign or getting feedback on their questions that they have about the campaign that they're currently running. So yeah, that
That's
may be
amazing.
surprising, but hey, that's a good problem to have, right?
That's a great problem to have. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So that's been absolutely amazing. And if you're listening, and so this good, normally when we talk about ads, there's two groups of people. There's one group of people who love it and they're like want to geek out with us on all these questions. And there's going to be another group of people who is like, oh my word, I want to know nothing about this. So,
Right.
and if you're one of those people that who wants ads, understand the power of that, but wants to do nothing with it sounds like actually working with your agency might be a really great fit because you're someone who spends all day every day do that for you so you don't have to. But actually if you're someone who wants to geek out, wants to learn more about this, actually ads, and you want to run your own ads, or you're just starting out, actually becoming part of your membership could be a really great fit.
Yeah, awesome. Can't wait to see some new faces.
Amazing. So we'll leave all the details in the show notes. And where else, if people wanted to reach out, where should they go?
I am on Threads a lot these days. So Litchfield Media on Threads. And I know you can find me from Instagram. So yeah, same handle, but I'm on either two throughout the day. And sometimes I'm on TikTok, but yeah, I'm on my personal one more than anything. It's like if I'm gonna scroll TikTok, I'm gonna just go to my personal one.
Amazing. Well, that was a pleasure to chat to you, Melissa. That was so powerful. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.